Hey everybody, welcome to Jimmy's Records and Tapes. I'm Jimmy Pardo. This week we're talking about 1988.
We've got it on vinyl, CD and cassette.
We've got pop, rock, heavy metal, punk, funk, rap, and new wave. All sales are final, but you never regret all the music you get at Jimmy's Records and Tapes.
I'm loving music again. Hey everybody, I'm Jimmy Pardo. This is Jimmy's Records and Tapes, and I welcome you to it. This week, as I mentioned before, the theme song is going to talk about 1988. What was happening? Well, CDs outsold LPs for the first time. They outsold them and they outsold them. They're top sellers, the CDs over the LPs. Prozak was introduced and changed mental health for the good. Some musical deaths. We lost the legends Chet Baker and Roy Orbison. I thought Roy Orbison, like everybody, was blind until I was into my 30s. Just wore glasses. Why did he do that? I think he was intentionally trying to fool us all. And our hearts were captured by the Jamaican bobsledding team at the Olympics. You want to go to the movies? Here's what you're going to enjoy. You're going to enjoy the movie Die Hard, which is may or may not be a Christmas movie, depending on what jerk you want to get stuck listening to at a bar. The movie Big was out, and I just saw that if you wanted to buy one of those little keyboards on the floor, that's like $70. And then you could recreate that scene from Big, if that's what you chose to do. Also, the movie License to Drive, which I went to see with my girlfriend Jennifer, and it marks the one and only time I ever yelled out at a movie screen while a guy was driving, and I went, "Oh no!" While this drunk guy was driving, while Heather Graham was in the trunk, and the two Coreys were chasing after the car. What does your money get you, besides enjoying License to Drive? Gas, 91 cents. House, $90,600. And a movie ticket would have cost you $3.50. The top-selling song of the year was Faith by George Michael. The top-selling album of the year was Faith by George Michael. The Grammy for Best Album was Faith by George Michael. The Best New Artist was Tracy Chapman. But I'm going to be talking about Peter Cetera's One More Story. It is his third solo album. His first being the self-titled that came out while he was still in the band Chicago. Then Solitude Solitaire, which had the two number one hits, Next Time I Fall and Glory of Love from the Karate Kid 2. And then this One More Story, which was ended up going to number 58 on Billboard. It had one single, One Good Woman, that went to number 4. And rumor has it, from Peter Cetera's own mouth, that song was supposed to be used in the movie Big. And maybe they didn't pay him enough money, so he didn't let them use it. The album was produced by Peter Cetera along with Patrick Leonard, who is best known, of course, for producing a lot of Madonna stuff. In fact, Madonna makes an appearance on this album under the name Lulu Smith. Also on this, Bonnie Raitt makes an appearance. Seidah Garrett, who you remember from the duet with Michael Jackson. Imboden plays drums. He went on to join the band Chicago. Peter's brother Kenny is on this. And David Gilmour provides guitar on a couple of tracks with his wonderful guitar sound. Maybe the best guitarist in the world, as far as I'm concerned. And he shows it here on this album. Other great songs, Best of Times, which is great. The theme from the first season of Baywatch, Save Me, is on this album. And then a great song that he wrote for his daughter called One More Story, the title track, which I would sing to my son Oliver when he was a little guy. It basically starts, one more story, then it's time for bed. One more fairy tale, then rest your weary head. Go to sleep now, don't worry, I'll still be here in the morning. And I'm literally getting choked up right now thinking about singing that to my son. It's a beautiful song. I've had the pleasure of meeting Peter Cetera a couple of times in my life. The first time was backstage on the Chicago 17 tour. It was right after I was in the band Rainbow Bridge in high school. And one of the gigs that we did, we were still doing a lot of Chicago songs in our set. And a guy came up to me and he said, "Hey, I'm just curious, why do you do so many Chicago songs?" And I said, "Well, they're my favorite band, and I forced the other guys to do them." And he said, "Well, Peter Cetera is my cousin. If you ever want to meet him, let me know." And then he gave me his phone number, to which I immediately, I think, put down a garbage disposal because I have no idea where that went to. Then Chicago was performing at Poplar Creek in Chicago, on Hoffman Estates to be exact. And I was backstage. I got backstage because I was working at a record store. And that guy said, "Hey, you're that guy from that band I saw that time." And I said, "Yeah, how do you remember that?" And he goes, "How do I forget the only band of high school kids doing nothing but Chicago songs?" And I was like, he goes, "Do you want to meet Peter?" And I go, "Yes, I do. I would love to meet Peter." And Peter he said, "Hey, Peter, this is that guy I was telling you about, the high school band that does the Chicago songs." And he said, Peter said, what do you do? And I said, well, I was the lead singer. And he said, well, maybe sometime you could sub in for me, which was very nice of him. And then he said, do you have some albums there for me to sign? I said, I do. And I handed him a stack of albums, and he signed them. And then when the top one came around, he signed it again. So I have Chicago Live in Japan, signed twice by Peter Cetera. Now, in fairness to him, he signed it twice because he was busy being a nice guy to me. The second time I met him was out on the street. I was walking to get some pants altered. I have a short inseam. And I saw Peter Cetera across the street getting into his car at the valet. And I know a lot of people say I don't want to be that guy, but this day I was that guy. It was like, I have to tell Peter Cetera what he means to me. So I walked across the street, and he sees me coming, and he can't wait to get into his car. He doesn't want what's about to happen to happen. So I say to him, I said, excuse me. And he goes, yes, I'm here with my daughter, like telling me basically, I know where this isn't happening. And I said, I never do this, which of course every celebrity hears. I just have to let you know what you meant to me, what your music has meant to me. And he said, oh, that's very, very nice. He was being very cordial, but still very distant. He said, oh, that's very nice. And he said, what's your name? And for whatever reason, I said, oh, I'm Jimmy Pardo, as if I'm introducing myself to an MC at a comedy club. And he said, Jimmy Pardo? Wait a minute, I know you. You're a comedian. I've seen you on Comedy Central. And I said, yes, that is me. And you saw his eyes flip from, this guy's bothering me, to, oh my God, this guy that I've seen on television is now telling me what my music means to him. And you could see the flip that it completely changed his demeanor and how, and he goes, Claire, this is Jimmy Pardo. He's a comedian. And she's like, oh, okay, great. And then they got in their car, and I was able to walk away feeling good about it, as opposed to me bothering a celebrity on the street and burdening them with my feelings. Hey there, it's now time for this week's quick hit, and it is Elton John's I Don't Want to Go On With You Like That, Don't Want to Be a Feather in Your Cap, is the second line. I chose to make it all part of the title. It is the lead single off of his album Reg Strikes Back, which was considered a comeback album of sorts for Elton. He didn't have a lot of hits in the 80s or a lot of acclaim, and I actually have a weird fondness for his 80s output. Who Wears These Shoes? I'm Still Standing. Those are great songs. Nikita? Why are we mad at Elton John's 80s output? We shouldn't be. This song, I Don't Want to Go On With You Like That, Don't Want to Be a Feather in Your Cap, that came in at number 2 on the Billboard chart. This album came out while I was working at MCA Records. I ended up working at MCA after I managed some record stores. And as the story goes, Elton John came to town, and he was doing a very intimate meet and greet where he also would do a couple of songs at the piano, which is the piano to me was about as close as your phone or your computer is to you right now. That's how close it was watching Elton John do some songs, including this one, this I Don't Want to Go On With You Like That, Don't Want to Be a Feather in Your Cap. So Elton John, his plane was delayed getting into Chicago, and my boss, Jim, was always kind of, I started doing some open mics while I was working at MCA, and he would always kind of bust my chops about it. Oh, there's the comedian. Well, on this night, his boss came over and said, hey, Jim, Elton's running late. We got to do something here. The natives are getting restless, so to speak. And he, for reasons to this second I don't understand, said, well, Jim here says he's a comedian. Maybe he should go up there and do some comedy. And I was like, I can't do that. And he's like, yeah, you got to get up there. You got to save it. Now, there's controversy over the years on what happens next. I either went towards the stage and Elton John showed up so I didn't have to go on stage. That's how everybody but me remembers the story. The way I remembered it, and again, I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong, was that I went on stage to actually do some comedy. They said, he's here. And I went, Elton John. The bottom line is, no matter what happened out of those two scenarios, I used in my intro for about 6 years of me doing stand-up comedy, our next act has opened for Elton John, the gentleman who did the song, I Don't Want to Go On With You Like That, Don't Want to Be a Feather in Your Cap. Hey, that is this week's Jimmy's Records and Tapes. I thank you for stopping by the store. I got to close it up, though, now, friends. But if you like the episode, Click like, subscribe, tell your friends about it, music fans, vinyl collectors, that sort of thing. I'm also on Twitter at Jimmy Pardo, and I host the award-winning podcast Never Not Funny, which you can find on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast. Until next time, the record's back in the sleeve.